All right, we're going to talk about mastering personal organization, right? And this is a thing we kind of struggle with our whole life. We never really master it. It's always a work in progress. But I think along the way, you learn some tips and tricks to kind of be a little bit more productive, more effective. Uh, Everybody's a little different in how they do things. I'm a big tools guy, but I think the best tool is not the one I tell you about, it's the one you use. So I'm aware that what works for me may not work for you, but I try to give you ideas and thoughts and things that you can try to make yourself a little bit more organized. So there's a lot of benefits to being organized. This is just really what it's about, right? I mean, you think about things that we use to organize ourselves. We have a lot of technology available to us, but sometimes that just adds to being overwhelmed even more because it just adds to how much we have more to organize. And it seems like the older we get, there is more to organize because there's everything in our life, everything in our kids' life, everything in our grandkids' life. I mean, just more and more stuff all the time that we have to organize. But if we're not, hey, Carol, if we're not organized, we run the danger of being disorganized. And in that case, then we waste time and money. We walk around a little confused because we don't know where things are, right? And we're a little out of sorts. There's a level of stress and frustration that comes along with like that. And we just miss out on some opportunities. So I don't want to be disorganized. No, I'm not the type A type that everything has to be like in a specific spot all the time. And if you move it, I get mad at you or something. I'm not that organized. I can handle a little bit of clutter, but if when things get disorganized, my mind starts to just have a little trouble, and it affects how I think and act, and even how I react to other people. So it affects not just us, but the people around us if we're disorganized. Good, great stuff, you guys. Okay, so what are the benefits of being organized? Right, self-confidence. You have peace of mind. You're more efficient. You know where your stuff is, right? It's no good if you have a bunch of stuff you don't know where it is. That's not very helpful. You don't waste time. You save money too, because you're not having to go look for stuff. Time is money, and things are money. And so how many times have you gone out and bought something just because you couldn't find it? You know you had it somewhere, but you don't know where it is, so you don't have time to look anymore. So you just go get another one. It's just that's the byproduct of being not organized in that moment. All right, so here's kind of my definition of organization. It's having a simple way to save something I want to use later, and having a simple method to access something I previously saved. So that's the organization, and it applies to all kinds of things, even time. Larry, we'll talk about time too in a minute. But if you kind of talk about breaking things down, I like to take complex things and try to make them simple. So you need a method to be able to save the things that you want. It's like, where do I put this, right? Where do I put this thing that's important? Having the right place for it. You don't want to just throw it all over the place because that's disorganized. But if everything has a place that you put it in, and then have a simple method to be able to access that later, then you have won the organization game. If we put things all over the place and they don't know where they are, then we lose. And if we don't have a method to be able to access them, we lose that way too. So this is kind of the high level way to kind of figure out a way to do this. And so whether it's tasks or money or time, it really applies the same way. Okay, so some organizational ideas, right? There's to-do tasks that you can do. We're gonna talk about that. You can journal notes you need to organize. You can create a personal dashboard. You have you have lots of projects and goals you might have. You might want to organize records or files that you have, collections, inventory items, gifts, your health records, different articles that you come across that you read online, photos, images, account information, your bills, your time, your calendar, your money. There's all kinds of things we can organize. And some of these things we use every single day. And if we're not organized, it's compounding the waste of our time quite a bit. Okay, so if you think about these three categories, let's zoom into these, right? So Larry mentioned time. So time and task, and Terry mentioned her kind of task strategy. That's one thing. How well do you do with that? The one thing that's unique about time, right? It's the one resource that everybody has the same amount of. Everybody born on this planet has the same number of hours in a week. We all have 168 hours in a week. Nobody has more, nobody has less. You can't buy it, sell it, trade it, save it, or you can waste it, but you can't do anything else with it. It's the one unique resource. I mean, people have more money than other people. People have more resources than other people. Some people run faster, some people are stronger. All those things vary, but time does not vary. Everybody has the same. Yet some people are productive and some people are not. Some people waste time. Some people make the most of their time. And I think you would join me in saying we all want to get to the end of our life and say we were good stewards of our time. We managed our time well. And to do that, we have to have a good perspective of time and tasks, what we do with our time, how we spend our time. And it's not all about just being productive all the time, because sometimes you need rest. That's a part of it. And it's how do you manage all of that so that you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your business, you're enjoying your life and your family and your friends and those kind of things all at the same time. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But then money, right? I mean, if our money's not organized, then we tend to have problems there too. So that's where budgets come in, and being able to know what your accounts are and paying bills and things like that. It's so much nicer now. I rarely write a check and put a stamp on an envelope anymore. Most everything I can do online, even pay bills, which is convenient for me. But still, unfortunately, not everything's due on the same day. So you have to kind of keep up with your money going out and your money coming in. And there's ways to stay organized there. Otherwise, that adds a lot of stress. Here we are moving into a recessionary time where money is tighter and tighter. And, if that's not organized and we're not careful, then that will add more stress and pressure to our life and our families. When you think about how many companies want us to set up on auto pay, which means they automatically draft our bank account when they want to. And before you know it, you don't know what all you subscribe to, and everybody who's got a hand in your bank account, and the money's just going out without you even knowing it. That was the good thing about writing a check and mailing it, is you knew when it was leaving. Now it's just going out, and you got to kind of pay attention to that. I had a quick story. I had about a year ago, somebody called me up and they had this content online, and they convinced me to try it out for a year. So I bought a year of the service at a discounted rate, and I knew that my credit card on file with them was going to expire. And they kept telling me that day that was going to expire. The credit card expired. So I said, okay, that's fine. I don't want to renew. I don't need to bother canceling. They're just not going to be able to take money because that credit card's going to be canceled. Well, sure enough, they were able to take money, even though it was a different, because it had the same number. It just had a different expiration date. So it keeps taking money out. So I call them up and say, what's up with this? Well, yeah, I said, they said, no, yeah, we said we were going to take your credit card. I said, well, I know if it's valid, but it wasn't a valid credit card anymore. They said, well, the system just checks the numbers. It doesn't check the expiration. I said, then why were you sending me emails every other week that my expiration was going to going away? Like, why did you even care? Why were you bothering me about that? Because you're going to take the money anyway. Anyway, that's the money. So I canceled that one. That one's canceled. I'm not paying them any more money. And they refunded me the 1 month beyond the 1 year I paid for. So that was good. But it took a little bit of paying attention and reading through all those emails that you get lost with all those spam and everything else that comes in. And then there's information, right? There's so much information. I think about, I do a lot of online reading of articles, and I love to save articles based on different topics, right? That I'm working on or researching or studying, and having a place to put those things rather than just bookmarking them and think I'm going to go look for them again in my browser, which I won't. So I have a way to kind of capture that. I also have a way for my projects that I'm working on. It's a little frustrating to have the pieces of a project spread out all over the place. If you can have them closer together in the one place, then when you work on that project, you don't have to go looking for things. They're all in one place, and you can make better use of your time as you do that. So when you think of this, just kind of quick inventory for yourself, how do you do on time and tasks? How do you do on your money? How do you do with your managing your information and your projects that way? Some are good at some are not good at the other. It gives us an opportunity to think about where we can improve there. Okay. All right. Times and tasks. So time and task, I use two different calendars that I talk about, and I have another class on this. This was a big breakthrough thing for me a year or so ago. I use an event calendar and a task calendar, the two different kinds of calendars, an event calendar and a task calendar. The event calendar is a calendar which is most traditionally used for just events, things you have to show up for. Your birthday party, your vacation, your doctor's appointment, lunch with your friend. Those are things you have to, so usually there's a date and a time associated with that event. But most of our life isn't consumed by those events. Most of our time is spent in between those events doing other things as well. And it's in between those events that we do the tasks that help us get ready for events, get prepared for events, right? And having a system or process to manage that is where a lot of people kind of break down, and their time is not well used. Now, we're all familiar with task lists, and they serve a purpose, but I would get frustrated with task lists because I could, depending on the day, be very creative and coming up with all kinds of things to do. And then the next day be very unmotivated. Or I'd go through a period like, oh, I made too big a list. It's just too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not going to do it all. Right. And then I just kind of put it away for a while. And you're just kind of drifting and floating then. You're just kind of not doing what you should be doing or on your task. So I came across this task calendar idea where it takes your task list to the next level, because what it does is whenever you think of something, it gives you a place to put it. Remember our organization, having a simple place to put something when you have it. So I want to free my mind up to think of creative things to do, new ideas, task ideas, projects I want to work on. And as soon as I can think of them, I have a place to put them. I have a program I put them in, and I can, whether it's on my phone or my computer, or whether you write it down or whatever, have a place to put it, right? Put the ideas down so you don't have to memorize them. You don't have to, oh, I forgot about that. You just want to put it down. And then what the task calendar does at the next level, this is what makes it different than a task calendar, is when you write it down, you're putting it on the day you're going to do it. You're assigning yourself the priority of doing it. So this expedites the prioritization piece, because if everything's important, nothing's important. Right. And like Terry, when she breaks hers into 3 categories, she's saying, look, these aren't all the same. These are different in size and scope. And then I'm going to break these. That helps add some priority to them a little bit for her. And whether, she's doing it by the size of the project or the difficulty of it, that helps a little bit of the prioritization. But most people don't even go that far. Most people just write on a list, and they might say, okay, here's my top 5 things for today. But what happens when you don't get those things done? How do you carry those over to the next day? And the task calendar works in a very visual way, because I love looking at a calendar. And if I get it done, I hit the done button and it goes off the calendar. If I don't get it done that day, I can drag it to the next day and the next day. And if I want to start avoiding it, then it just kind of goes in the past, and I realize it really wasn't that important. So I can just mark it done or archive it, get it out. And so I keep those on separate calendars, because I would be overwhelmed in my life if I saw all of them on one calendar. If I saw events and tasks on one calendar, I would be too intimidated to get out of bed a lot of days. And I don't want to discourage myself from coming up with more tasks. I want to be motivated to keep capturing tasks and putting them on there. So the other belief I have is that when we're at events, we're not doing tasks. And when we're doing tasks, we're not at events typically. So it's okay to have a different calendar to look at when you're in those different places of the day, different times of the day. Okay, so that's time and task. Scheduling things, all of that helps cut down on conflicts. Sometimes you need to sometimes the task gets really big and you have to make an appointment with yourself to do it. Then you put it on your event calendar, you time block that out and say, I got to work on this one thing for an hour or 2 hours. But if you really get committed to your calendars, they become the authority to yourself of what to say yes to and what to say no to. And that becomes very powerful. I shared this idea with a lady I think it was Monday. And she was one who has all kinds of ideas, and she was struggling to kind of keep up. And she's like, I'm just not getting stuff done. And I shared this idea with her, and she customized it to be her own. And she sent me an email. I don't know if I got it yesterday, the day before. And she sent me a screenshot. She scheduled out a whole day of how she was going to do her tasks. I mean, I don't get it on my task calendar. I don't put a time on there. It's just the day. It's on the day. I don't care what time of day it is. I'm going to get it done sometime during the day. Now she took it to the next level, and she actually said, okay, at 8 o'clock to 8:15, I'm going to do this. And she goes, it changed my life. I got so much done today because I took the things that were important and I said, this is what I'm going to do them. And I got them done. Because, that round to it idea, like I'll get around to it, we don't, right? I mean, especially if you're retired, you don't have to do it. I mean, some of this stuff's just optional. Some of this stuff is like, I don't have to do it. But if you really want to do it and you set a priority for it and you put it on your calendar and you follow that, then you're more likely to get it done. Now, I'm not suggesting you fill your whole day from, get out of bed to go into bed. Have some margin in there. Give yourself time to breathe and enjoy life and get out with friends and family and do that. Even block those kind of times off. Like, look, nothing's going to be scheduled in this period of time because I don't want to do anything. That's fine. Do that, because that's important too. Because sometimes we squeeze ourselves out, right? We just work ourselves too hard and we just keep going. Carol, you're probably a project. Okay, I'm tired. I have to go to bed. project, right? And like, when's time for Carol? When does Carol get to get regenerated and renewed and restored? Because all of that's important as well. All right, any questions on this? Comments, questions on time task? You guys are good on that? Yeah, Carol.
I want to have an idea, if you can give me an idea of how not to get diverted. Like, I'm getting involved in doing something, so I'm going to clean off the bathroom counter. So I go in there, and then I look over and my plant needs watering. So I stop and I water my plant. And then, the floor needs a little vacuuming. So I stop and vacuum. So the whole purpose was just to clean the counter off. And now the next thing I know, it's taken me 3 times as long to get out of the bathroom. And the counter still isn't cleaned off.
Okay.
So what do you do? Do you tie a red ribbon around your wrist?
I have two ideas for you. Two different approaches.
Okay.
One approach would be get up and walk around the house and with your notepad and make a list of all the things that need to be done. Water the plant, clean the kitchen, right? Make a task list right out of that. Just everything you walk around, just pick your 5, 6 things you want to do, 10 things, whatever they are, right? Okay. And you write them all down. Okay. And then and then do them, order them any way you want, but only do them in that order. Don't start another one until you finish one. You got to start and finish one before you can start and finish the next one.
Oh, okay.
The other idea is to give yourself a time frame to do something. In other words, you say, you've got 30 minutes to tidy up the house. Set a timer. Do you have Alexa in your house? Do you use Alexa?
Yes.
Or
yeah.
Say, Alexa, 30-minute timer for cleaning the house. And she'll say, okay, good, 30-minute timer. And then go to town, just clean as much as you can. But when 30 minutes is up, you're done. But just stay on cleaning. Don't start cooking dinner. Don't start, going outside and cutting the grass or something like that. Stay on task. So one is making the list and doing the list in the order that you created. The other one is giving yourself time just to work. Use timers to just work on one task at a time. We don't multitask well. We really don't. We weren't made to do that. My definition of multitasking is doing more than 2 things at the same time poorly. That's really all multitasking is. The only way we can pseudo multitask is if we're able to do something subconsciously and then something else consciously. And what does that look like? That looks like this. If you've ever driven to work the same way for years and years and years, you know how to get there. So when you get in the car and you drive to work, some days you get about halfway there and you're thinking about something else and you go, I don't even remember getting here. You ever had that feeling? You're like, I don't even remember getting here. I know I'm safe and I know I wasn't being reckless, but subconsciously you've done it so many times, your body knows how to do it. You've created a habit that your body doesn't have to give much thought to. That frees you up to think about something else, right? So that's the only way to really multitask. And that's not what typically we do. And that's typically not what we're doing when we say, I'm talking to somebody on the phone and doing a text message, or I'm watching a TV show and I'm trying to write a letter. We just can't do that. That's just, we're not able to do that very well. That's, you can't text and drive. Nobody does that well. That's a rear-ending accident waiting to happen, right? We just can't do those 2 things at the same time. So yeah, those are a couple thoughts on that. Okay, give that a shot. All right, on the money side, tracking their expenses. If you're like, hey, I don't even know where my money goes. Most people don't know where their money goes. If you ask people what percentage of your money goes to this, they will underestimate most of the time. They really we don't really have a good feel for. We talk about what we want it to be, but we don't really know what it really is. So like there's some things we spend more money on than we think we do. And the only way to really figure that out is to track those expenses. and then kind of rein that back in. Let's assume you were like a big Starbucks fan, right? Like you love Starbucks and you got, you can't even have your own coffee. You have to go to Starbucks to get it all the time. It just adds up, right? It's just like you're probably spending far more than you really think you are. We just tell ourselves, it's not that much. But then you look and you're like, it's quite a bit, right? But I mean, all that comes back to priorities. I mean, whatever your priorities are. But if the money's a challenge, if you're struggling with the organization of that, get a handle on what your expenses are going out there. Paying the bills on time. That's how frustrating it is. You get a late fee, right? Oh, that's like getting punished as a kid, is like getting a late fee. Like, really? That's just wasted money. We just gave somebody money that I didn't need to give them because I was late giving them money. It wasn't that I wasn't going to pay them. It's just I didn't pay them when I was supposed to. So now I got to pay more, right? That's a sign of disorganization and not staying on top of it. So having a way to do that. And then, tax preparation, when that comes around, how much time do you spend on that? There's ways to be organized throughout the year so that it's not that big a deal when it's time to do taxes. All right. I won't go too much into that. Information. There's a lot of information that you might want to have. And you think about all of this, right? The longer we're alive, the more of this there is. There's our own personal information, our family, our kids. Do you know where all that is? Do you know where that information is? Can you digitize it? Is it accessible? Is it in a box somewhere in storage? Is it in a file cabinet? Could you get to it if you were out of town, right? All those kind of things kind of come into mind. And I use some tools that I'm able to basically get to from anywhere because it's in the cloud, it's in the internet, and I can get to it. And so I kind of keep moving stuff in that direction. And one of the things that I think about is family movies and photos, right? When we were younger, we used to have to go buy film and put it in a camera, and we had to wait till we'd finish 12, 24, 36 pictures before we would go take that camera out and go get it developed, and we'd have to drop it off, and it was a pain in the neck to do all that. It's like a lot of, you have to buy the film, you have to pay for the development, you have to drive, and you wouldn't get it. And so there was just, pictures are pretty precious back then because there weren't that many of them, and they're all just printed. That's really all you had was these printed pictures. And so we have our family's pictures and those kind of things. And then the digital camera came along, and oh my goodness, there's no limit. I mean, it was just keep taking pictures. You didn't have to print them all, but you had a bunch of them. And then those ended up on CDs, and then some of those got printed, and then now with our smartphones, we can take pictures until we run out of memory on our phone. And we take pictures and pictures and videos, but like, where are those? Like, how do we keep those somewhere so that not only we can enjoy them, but our kids and our grandkids can enjoy them, right? How do you organize those kind of things so that some of those great traditions and things are passed along? Not to mention health records and those kind of things. Receipts are another big one, right? It's crazy. It's the year 2022, and we still use thermal receipts. A thermal receipt will last about how long if you put that receipt on your dashboard, especially here in Florida, right? That thermal paper is going to turn into something you can't read pretty quick. And by the time you need to use it to go back to return something, you can't even read it anymore because it's been faded or washed out. So what I do if I have a receipt is I'll take a picture of it with my phone, and I have a place where I have all those receipts that I can access from my phone. I don't just put in my camera roll because that's kind of hard to find. I have another way to organize those so I can find it. So I can search by the store name, it pulls up all those receipts, and then I can just show them that, and they can scan that and get their information. Things like that help you stay more organized. Okay. What else here? All right, here's the tools I use. Now, again, use the tools you want to use. For my time and task, I use multiple Google calendars. I have probably 6 or 8 Google calendars that all feed together into one place just because I work on different projects. And the good thing about Google calendars is you can share that with other people, and they can contribute to it as well. And then they can see what you want them to see. You can share what you're available and all. And I roll up all of my calendars into one program called Fantastical, which is, unfortunately, I think it's just Apple or Mac based, but it works on my laptop and on my phone. So I have all my calendars in one calendar. They're all blended together, and I'm able to kind of see that. It takes away duplicates, all that kind of thing. It's very, very helpful. So that's my event. That's my event calendar. That's just my event calendar. So I know I can look at my event, and I literally practice selective memory. The older I get, I don't want to have to memorize much, really. I really don't, because I have a place I've put it, and I know how to access it. So my wife will sometimes say, what classes are you teaching today? What time? I'm like, I don't know. I got to go look at my calendar. I mean, I don't care that I don't know. I know that I know where they are, and I'm going to know before I teach them. But the day before, I'm not going to remember what the next day is just off the top of my head, because I know my calendar is the law for me. I know it's all in there, and it works really well. Now, the task calendar, I used a program called Notion, and I use Notion for a lot of things. You'll see that's up there quite a bit. This is a kind of an all-in-one program. I teach classes on this here at GetSetUp, and it has a calendar feature that I use for my task calendar. So this is where I put my tasks, and this is where I put them on a calendar, and I'm able to access it from my computer, from my tablets, from my iPhone, and it works on any platform. You can work on PC as well. Notion does. But you could use any calendar program for your task calendar, right? You can add a task calendar to your Google Calendar. You could create a different calendar on Microsoft calendars if you want. Whatever calendar programs you have, you could create another one that is a task calendar. The one thing I don't like, Google does have a task feature. I just don't like how it works. I don't like how a lot of task features work. I've tried many of them. I just don't like their system. So this man-made one that I have really seems to work. One of the tricks when you put a task on a calendar is you make it an all-day event, meaning it's a block that takes up the whole day. Not the whole vertical day, but just it's labeled to just a day event. And that allows you to drag that around real easy. It's not tied to an hour or a minute during the day. It's just tied to the day. That's just one tip that I have for you there. Okay, so that's the time and task one. And I'm on that all the time. I mean, and I toggle between my Fantastical calendar and this is Fantastical. And it's rolled up. So these are just events that I have to show up for, right? So you can look at a week view, a month view, a quarter view, year view. I don't ever usually do that, or the day, right? And I can scroll around and see what's going on. So these are things I have to show up for, like classes I've got next week. They're all in here. So this isn't slam full. I don't try to slam full it with all my events. My events are in here, but what do I do in these in between times? I can work on my tasks when I'm not at the events, which is good. Okay. And then you say, well, what does your task calendar look like? Let me pull that up and show you what that looks like. So this is in Notion. All right, share Notion. Okay, so here's my little task calendar. And you can see like, I've got some things I haven't done this week, but this thing I've been dragging along. This guy is working on a documentary for me, and I don't owe him money yet, but I'm thinking about paying him a little early. So I keep delaying paying him money, but I don't owe it to him yet. So like if I want to, there's information about him. If I wanted to move something, like let's say like this guy here, I need to call this guy. Let's say I want to move that to today. I just pick him up and I drag it over here to today, and now it's on today. See how easy it is to move those around? So this one I'm going to move down to Monday. Some of these things I'm going to move around here, move that to Monday. This one I'm going to put on Sunday. If I get it done, I just click the done and it goes away. It's real nice. So that's how that works. So these are tasks that I've got planned to do, DO, and the day I'm going to do them. All right, that's the task calendar looks like for me. Any questions or comments on that?
That's very well laid out. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I think the problem that most of us have is we aren't as controlled as you are. And we tend to lay these things off. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And all of a sudden we got 60 things to do on one day.
Well, we are only accountable to ourselves on a lot of these things. And so you decide That's what I like about being able to move these around real easy. Because if it was just on the list, I would just say, I'm not going to recopy that over for another day. I'm just going to, I'm going to lose that list and just forget about all that stuff. This keeps it kind of in my mind a little bit. And I don't beat myself up. I mean, I could go back and show you the last 3 months. I've got stuff I didn't get done. I'm okay with it. What you realize is it really wasn't that big a priority to get those things done because they didn't keep getting moved forward. They kind of just slough off as not too important. But I think, for me, the big pieces of it are have a place to put the ideas of things you want to work on, like have a way to capture that you can easily capture, and then have a way that you can use them and manipulate them and mark them off and move them forward. That was the piece that was missing for me a lot. And being able to put them on a calendar, I love that it's visual, and I love that I can move them around real easy. That's the great value to me on that. But you could do this manually. You could do a variation of this to help you. But I think one of the big things is no matter what method you use, if you can assign a day you're going to do a task, if you can't think of a day to do it, it's not that important. Don't write it down, right? I mean, it's like, I don't know what I want to do this. Well, don't write it down. Put it on a bucket list. If I want to go to Niagara Falls, but I'm not going to take any steps to get there right now, I'm not putting that on my task list. That's going to go on my bucket list. That's another list. But at the point that I decide I'm going to go to Niagara Falls, now I got to say, okay, I got to get airfare. I got to figure out where I'm going to stay. I got to, those kind of things. Those become tasks then at that point. And I'm going to say, when do I need to get, when am I going to do those? The other thing is we often thought we would use due dates, DUE dates, days that they're due. And if you wait till when something is due, sometimes it's too late. You needed time before that to get it done. And you can't do everything at the last minute. So when you set on your task calendar when you're going to DO the date, you're going to do the item, then you're thinking ahead a little bit. So, okay, I need to work on this, so I have it done in time for that. Yeah. All right. So on the money one, I use a free program called Wave. I mean, there's like Quicken. There's a lot of our banks have pretty good financial reporting as well that you can pull up. But the reason I liked Wave is I could sync it with my bank account and to bring in all my transactions automatically in there. And I found out today my bank decided they're not. I use a small bank. I'm not a big bank guy. I like small banks because they don't charge me fees. I don't like banks that charge fees. So it makes no sense to me that I'm going to give them my money and then they're going to take more money because I'm giving them my money. I don't get that. So I work with small banks, and my small bank told me today they're not letting any third-party companies or programs be able to access my account anymore. So I have to upload my electronic statements, which I can do, monthly or quarterly or whatever I need to do. But the beauty of that is they go in there and then you can categorize them based on what you're spending the money on. And then you get reports to kind of see how your money's being spent. It's been real helpful through the years when I prepare for taxes too. So I have my business accounts in there. I invoice through that sometimes. Wave has a lot of free services. I don't pay for any of their paid services. They offer some paid stuff, but I only use the free version of that. Okay, but Quicken's the same kind of thing, something to kind of know where the money's going, and you get some reporting on that. On the information side, I use Notion for that. So every project I work on using Notion, all the articles that I come across, information I'm researching that goes in there. A lot of pieces of projects are in there. I'm doing this project this summer where we're hiring high school kids to work for construction companies. We're teaching them life skills and helping them learn how to work. And so it's inside Notion. I can have kind of like a spreadsheet of their contact information and where they are in the process, and who's interviewed and who accepted and things like all those little pieces can be all in one place rather than having Excel spreadsheets over here and Word documents over here or Google stuff over here. You can embed all that into this Notion so that it's all in one place on your project. So that's there. All right, Notion, you find Notion. I'll send you these notes after class too, but you find Notion at notion.so. That's the website. They have a free version and a paid version. I just use the free version. It works fine. It's a one account you can access from any of your devices, whether it's a computer, a tablet, the phone. Keeps all your stuff securely in the cloud. So if something happens to your device or your computer, no worries. Your information's still safe. get a new phone, get a new computer, and your information's still there.
Do you know what the SO stands for?
I don't. Do you know, Larry?
I've never seen that one before.
Yeah. No, I know there's all kinds of extensions that are out there. That's just the one they have. Yeah. So there's the free one there. This is Wave. Their website is waveapps.com. Waveapps.com. Check that out. I'll send it on to you. All right. Well, I got you through all of that. If there's nothing else, we'll wrap up here.